Well, hi there once again, Michael here from Leaderscape. How you doing in this season? My gosh, it's like none other. I turned 60 a little while ago, and I've never experienced anything like this in my 60 years or nearly 38 years of ministry. But honestly, lead pastors, you are our heroes. You've pivoted on 3 or 4 days and reshaped your whole church. And we absolutely salute you. I'm delighted today to be joined by my friend John Finkelde. John was a bit of a forerunner for me anyway. He started helping pastors, coaching, consulting. One of the leading coaches and consultants, works all around the world, but certainly in Australia. And he's got a passion for pastors, runs a ministry called Grow a Healthy Church. Says it all, doesn't it? I know his passion for that. John, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have you here.
Michael, real pleasure to be with you and with all the Leaderscape crew. Just great. And you're right, we have followed each other on social media for many years and enjoyed each other's travels and work. So it's kind of good to be hanging out together. And
you should know each other better by now. That's the truth of the matter. We're always on an aeroplane, except now that our wings have been clipped quite considerably, we're doing it all virtually, huh?
Yeah, a lot of work from home.
Oh my gosh! So you were a lead pastor for about 20 years, a little bit longer than us, and then on that same team for 10 years prior to that. So 33 decades of experience and compassion you bring to the table, and then you've been doing this for 8 years, huh? Helping pastors and churches.
Yeah, I've sat in the hot seat that lead pastors sit in, and also I guess team pastors I've sat in that hot seat too. Yep. So I do have a lot of empathy for pastors in the last 8 years doing all the consulting and coaching. Man, I love pastors, love churches, and love what they do, and deeply feel for them in this season of massive, bizarre change. Michael,
it's crazy, isn't it?
It's real.
Glad we got out just in time. Phew.
Dodged a bullet, you reckon?
Oh, it's amazing. Particularly if you've been doing this for some time, we both work with younger pastors and more senior pastors. We've been doing this for a couple of decades, even without realizing it. There's a whole lot of implied knowledge and understanding in how you do church. And at the moment, all that's out the window.
It's a completely new ball game, isn't it? And I really take my hat off. I was just coaching a pastor this morning in Adelaide, and a smaller church, and he is not any tech. He doesn't have a tech or geek bone in him at all, but he's taken to it. And he said, our services are getting better. I'm getting on all sorts of elements of social media that he hasn't done before. And guys are having to pivot on a little threepenny bit where they're just having to suddenly create ministries almost that they haven't had before.
That's absolutely true. It really, we say it, and I guess we would say that, but we really do believe it. You guys have done an amazing job. And if you're a lead pastor watching this time together, John and I are just going to unpack some of the things that we've been seeing. Like I said, he's been doing this for 8 years, myself going on 7. He had 10 years experience as a team pastor. I had a dozen. He's had 20 years as a senior pastor, myself 18. And so, between the two of us, there's 60 years, experience of doing what some of you are doing right now. And so for us, the empathy's high. Any encouragement or reflections we're able to give come out of a heart that genuinely wants to serve the church and see your position for just the very reason God called you in the first place. John, a lot has been said about mental health over this time, and particularly of our people, and positioning pastors and churches to be whom we need to be just to help our people through. But I'm not sure there's been a whole lot said about lead pastors and team pastors at a time like this where the stress levels, those gauges, man, they must be going, they'd be shooting through the roof right now.
Yep. Redlining.
They really are. They really are. Give me some reflections on no names, no pack drill, but of some of the observations that you've made in speaking intimately. And you got to know, John is one of the finest coaches going around, and he's renowned not only in our nation, but he works up in Europe and all over the world. And part of that is he honestly just loves one-to-one coaching, sitting with a pastor, drawing the gold out, but also, as any good coach does, just really being a listening ear. What have you heard, John?
Yeah, look, it's been talks with dozens of pastors in the last 5 or 6 weeks, Michael, and the thing that is a recurring theme is the fact that pastors are working longer hours. Some of them are actually, who are doing pre-recorded Sundays, are enjoying Sunday more because they're basically sitting back and watching church and engaging online. But it's not the pressure of getting out of bed, getting dressed and getting there and organising everything.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are working longer hours. So I think also the picture I've had is that most pastors have been like a cat trying to get out of a bath. They're just scrambling like mad, just kind of crawling to the sides of the bath.
Great metaphor.
It is a good picture, isn't it? I think all of us have been a bit like that.
Yeah.
One of the things I've said to pastors is have a go at resetting your routine, because I think
I love it.
Building up to Easter, you really had this sense of scramble and just mad, get it done, however we can get it done. And I've encouraged pastors the last few weeks, look, post-Easter, hit the reset button, get some of your sleep patterns back into rhythm, some of your food and exercise patterns, some of the Bible patterns, prayer patterns that you have well established over the years. Get them back running the way. Get organized. Get your kind of, I talk about end of day rituals. Get your desk cleaned off at the end of the day. Kind of have some rhythms, because working from home, Michael, you're probably like me. I've got a home office, 8 years working from home and in planes, basically.
Yeah, totally.
Hotels, planes in this place. But I'm used to working at home, but most pastors aren't used to spending days working at home or even in an office by themselves, where before they might have had a lot of staff around them. So I've said, hit the reset routine, get your exercise programs going. I was talking to a pastor this morning. He said one of his objectives is to end up fitter after COVID than before COVID. Yeah. And I thought, that's smart, pastor.
That's right. That's really good.
Yeah, it is good, eh?
I was hearing another one who was complaining that the virus has not only put fear out there, but it's shrunk all its clothes while he's been at home. And that would be a real danger right there, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've lifted my own game with my intermittent fasting. I've been doing that for a year or so. But
same. Really, about 2. Yeah, we've been going about 2 years. The whole keto thing and intermittent fasting and so on. Yeah.
Well, you inspired me with an Instagram post a year or two ago. And I thought, I love that. I love that. Really impacted me and shifted a lot of diet things as well. But I'm going hard on the intermittent fasting, because I find that's one of the best ways to control that urge to find a chocolate biscuit.
It covers a multitude of sins, actually.
Yeah.
If you do the intermittent fasting, you can have a little bit of ice cream late at night and so forth. But I think that those simple routines of exercise and health, they're not at all unconnected to our spiritual life and just our energy, particularly as we put a few miles or kilometers on the clock. And we've got a bunch of good decades left in us yet. But if we treat our bodies right, we're gonna finish strong.
I think there's that adrenaline surge that kept guys going the first 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That I think Easter was kind of like a pivotal time of brilliant services and so on. But hey, you know what? The post-adrenaline surge is going to hit in this sort of period now. So I think it's even a couple of pastors I know have taken a week's holiday right now. Just said, you know what? We're kind of over the hump of Easter. I'm just going to take a week off. I said, good move. Pull back.
I totally agree. A couple of others have said, that's great. I'd love to, but where am I going to go? My backyard? Exactly. Pitch a tent, son. Pitch a tent.
Tent in the backyard. I'll go into the lounge room today, and then I'll hang out in the kitchen tomorrow. That'll be a great holiday.
That's right. What do you think? Like, that adrenaline thing is very interesting, because I think in that first couple of weeks, like you rightly said, it almost created its own weather pattern. There's something about, if there's any sort of leader in you, and there's a crisis on, and you quickly dive for the fire extinguisher, and you get your church online in 4 flipping days. There's a sense of zhoosh that comes out of that. But that shouldn't be confused with momentum or even fruitfulness. It's just that. It's adrenaline, anointing, whatever. But it's that. And then I agree with you. The day after, Ed Cole used to always say to me, one of my spiritual mentors in heaven for about 15 years now, but he used to say, Michael, put that bony finger in my face. He said, the day after the battle is more important than the day before.
Wow.
And I think Easter, everything was like, what sort of Easter we're going to have? Okay, we did it. No one died. We got more views than we ever had. And I think I've learned that views are the new crack for pastors.
You're totally right, man. Hey, my views are up. That church is growing fourfold.
I want to count the 3-second views. They were intense 3 seconds, John.
Life-changing 3 seconds.
Oh, man, that's what it just takes a moment for God to touch your heart. But I think, that day after the battle where that surge initially is over, and maybe a little bit of, well, this is it. Now, clearly it's not it.
Yeah.
But, when you're staring down the barrel, depending on the nation and the governor of another 4 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe 4 months, it's just, it can take the wind out of your sails. What would you recommend to pastors in that situation?
Yeah. Definitely, I'm recommending to pastors to take 2 days off every week. So find 2 days.
I need to hear that. My wife would say, tell him again, John, tell him again.
Yeah, well, actually, you're dead right there. I mean, one of the things I do in consulting is train pastors how to find the off button on their mobile phone, because most people don't believe that mobile phones have one. Hey, look at this. Let's practice this. Let's turn your phone off and see if the world implodes or not.
My God.
So I tell guys, look, find 2 days to take off. I'm working Monday to Friday, full tack, like you, Michael. I got a lot of guys just helping, doing a lot of online stuff.
Yeah.
But Saturday, Sunday, I'm taking it off. I'll watch church, engage with church on Sunday, but the rest of the weekend, I'm hanging out, go for a walk with my wife, Diane. I'll do a bit of fun stuff. I'll watch a bit of Netflix, because I find 5 days full on by the weekend, man. It's like an old style sort of, I haven't had weekends like this for years. Decades actually, but it's like an old style lifestyle. But having 2 days off, find the 2 days. And if a pastor says, I can't find 2 days, I said, well, maybe there's some things you need to really cull and go right back to the very basics. Get your online service done as good as you can. Do the pastoral care, small groups, and maybe a bundle of other stuff just needs to get shelved for a while, because we're going to be doing online church for months, not for weeks. And to survive, I think you need downtime. I think you need time off your phone. think you need that kind of hobby thing going on, whatever your hobby is. I've got a guitar sitting in my cupboard over there. I like to pull out and play that, or whether it's walking or whatever. Find some ways to unwind, relax, get yourself distracted from the pressure. And it is a really seriously pressured time, Mike. You know that as well as I do.
It really is.
Guys
I was musing on this the other day. That we, on site, to use an old school word, we've got our parish, we know whatever that is, it's geographical, or, we can put our arms around it. Yeah, you never quite, satisfy all the needs of people and our leaders and stuff. And then we went from parish to publish. So we had to get online, quick, smart. And that was enough. But now the pressure, sometimes with comparison, is in the detail of the polish. We actually, because it's a never-ending thing. It's like grasping eels that have just come out of the water. You're never going to get there. And people want you more than they want Stephen Furtick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greater preacher as he is, or T.D. Jakes.
Totally.
They want you at a time of insecurity and instability. They want to hear from their pastor. And so more important than the polish is you continually minister to this online parish and get it out there. That's whether it's a little devotional or something like that.
It's true.
What about in terms of ministry and mission? I wonder what God's up to at this time. Now, obviously, He's not caused the virus, but what are your reflections on some of the things that that genuinely, not just trying to always look on the bright side, is like, that genuinely we can take away as going,
yep.
That seems like it's got a bit of heaven's fingerprint on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the guys that I coach here in Australia, who's again not really. I'm a bit geeky, Michael. I love technology. I love trying new things in technology, websites and apps and everything like that.
Awesome.
This guy is allergic to that sort of stuff. He just not that involved with social media. And he's really lifted his game. He's got a 2-site campus, 2-campus church, great church, 400-500 people. And he's really got onto Facebook Live. So he's doing Facebook Live 3 or 4 times a week to his church.
Yeah.
And look, when he first started, he looked like a deer in the headlights, a rabbit in the headlights. He looked like terrified and didn't look really good, but he's lifted his game. He's interacting with people. He's having a chat to them. And I think one of the big things that's going to come out of this is pastors are going to learn how to utilize online technology in a way that reaches not only their flock, the people they're shepherding, but also how to engage with their community. Mm-hmm. One guy, a friend of mine in Portland, Oregon, passing up there, his food ministry has just gone off the chain, man. It's gone off the scale. And he's now connecting with his community in a way and building a reputation in a way. It's been planted for about 2 or 3 years, but he said this is going to change the landscape for us in terms of our reputation in the community. So I think there are opportunities that as pastors get out of it, I call it moving from the crisis to the adaptation stage, where they scrambled out of the bath now. They're not in danger of falling back into the bath like a cat would be. They're now adapting. And I think the next stage, the next phase of this whole pandemic process, Michael, I think is that pastors will start to think, how do we now interact meaningfully with our community in different ways? That's
really great. Just that I like that crisis to adapting to the new scenario. And I know you've got a real burden, a passion for leading change, but also how that interacts with grief and so forth. Talk to us a little bit more about that, John.
Yeah, I think there's a whole shift that goes on. I mean, it's the classic grief cycle when this hit, and I think it hit me as well. I think it hit bundles of leaders of shock. No, this is not happening. Oh, it won't really affect me. The denial sort of thing. No, this won't come near my house. We're good. And then the realization of, oh, horror, this is coming to I had to come overseas, from overseas 2 days early because of the hassle of getting back into Australia. So hang on, this is really affecting me. And then, oh my goodness, this is changing my entire life. I can't get on another plane. There's sadness, there's mourning, lament, depression, all sorts of worry, anxiety. And then you come into the phase of out of that crisis phase, which I think we all dip back into every now and again. I don't think you leave it behind. I think it's still so unknown that you dip back into it. But then you go into adapting where you start to pivot. And I know you, Michael, like me, have pivoted with the consulting and coaching.
Yep, totally.
Pastors are doing that. You have to integrate and experiment and try new things. And I think that's full on right now. I'm really encouraging pastors to amp up their small group, Zoom groups, whatever they call them. Whatever way you're connecting, really amp up your own connection with those groups. Drop into the Zoom Connect group for 10 minutes just to say hi. And in regards to that mission, to actually a pastor dropping into a Zoom Connect group and just saying, hey guys, just dropping in, seeing how you're doing, bit of a look over everybody, see how they're doing. And then just share for 3 or 5 minutes on mission, on vision, putting hope and faith and courage into your people. And then see you later, I'm out of here. And you could visit about 5 small groups in one evening.
Yeah,
just
great.
dropping a word of mission, strengthening them. And also I think kind of integrating those new ways, adapting to the whole new thing. But, Michael, I feel for pastors because it is a lot of work, a lot of things. And if guys aren't wired this way for online or technology, it's even more difficult for them, I think.
No, I 100% agree. Right. I think that when you mentioned before, and I'm curious as to how this will go, but about, I think you might have mentioned church planting or this could change church planting forever.
Yep, absolutely. I think there's going to be techniques that we discover of how to connect with our community, how to minister. Because let's face it, some churches have dabbled in social media, dabbled in a Facebook ad, dabbled in a Google ad, and just gone, it's too hard, and walked away from it. And now it's a complete and utter center of the picture necessity. And I think, I mean, every guy that I'm talking to, when they come into that third phase, I call it the reboot phase, when we relaunch a lot of things. And some churches, there's a guy in Netherlands I'm coaching. He's bought a building and just will settle on it in September. He's saying, when we meet in September, he said, I'll actually have a different church meeting in a different building. It's almost like a relaunch. It's a fairly large church, but almost a relaunch of his church. So I think there's a lot of stuff we can learn about church planting out of this whole process, Michael.
Amazing.
No doubt you're seeing that as well.
Talk about rebooting. What about re-entry? Like in the sense of, you know, like your friend in the Netherlands. Yeah. That he, how will that, what things do you think we should be thinking about holding on to? Yeah. Obviously, some things will go back to the way they were. And I think for many of us that have been doing this for decades, there's a sense of comfort and even sentimentality in that. Yeah. But again, I'm a bit jealous to make sure that in that we don't maybe miss some of the things that God intended us to grab a hold of. I got the picture this morning. I was just reflecting on this, you know, of the old classic, you know, year 2 or year 3 kind of illustration of the chrysalis and the caterpillar, and you know, the kid that the end off and tries to pull out the caterpillar to make it to do a just add water kind of butterfly. And you know, quite poetic really for this.
Very nice.
But I wonder whether there's some things God's doing that it's his intention never to have us go back. When we go back, let's not go back.
That's it. Totally.
And what are some of those that you've been reflecting on?
Yeah, I started calling this current era, or this season, if you like, the current normal. And I talk about the new normal that'll be, because there's no going back to a normal. Normal's gone. Yeah. Now, will we still meet and sing and preach? Yes, absolutely. I think some of those methodologies will still be there, but I think the new normal will have a different feel about it. I'm probably, and I think you're thinking the same here, but I'm probably of the opinion that I'm quite happy if online church remains for a few months, and actually meeting together, I think, is going to be quite difficult because of the social distancing, you know, people having to sit so far apart. I wonder if some pastors will go, you know what, I think we'll hold back until we really can actually fully meet together, which I think is actually, me personally, I'd prefer that. I'd rather not go into a building where you can't go within 3 meters of someone and sit with 2 meter spaces.
Well,
I think that'd be
so different. And
crazy.
You know, like because the expectation you would carry,
back
to church. Yeah. But actually, there's something about shoulder to shoulder, particularly in a worship environment. You've got 150 in the room or 1,500. There's something about kind of like being there, you know. It's the reason why if you've got an auditorium of 700 and 200 in it, you try and rope some stuff off, not because you don't want to use up the chairs, because there's something about, as human beings, when we are together,
that's right,
created when we're close together.
Absolutely. You're making me nostalgic for a gathering, Michael. I'm feeling like that shoulder to shoulder picture, man. I just want to be, you know, on the front row, brothers and sisters in arms, man. That's what I want. But
absolutely.
I kind of like the idea of, this sounds weird, but I don't mind the idea. Let me put it this way, because I still think there's a lot of tragedy and sadness that I hate about this thing, and really do hate, to be honest. I think if this rolls on for a number of months, I think the advantage it will give us is pastors will have time to adapt fully to the current normal, and then go, you know what, let's look at what we can get ready to reboot, and what are we going to reboot with? How are we going to reboot? How are we going to do re-entry? What are we going to take with us? Because I think there's a mix there right now with pastors. Talking with a pastor in New Zealand this morning, I think there's a mix there of, oh man, this is hard work. I'm a bit tired. I don't know if I really want to take this with me. I just want to go back to where we were. I'd like us to get beyond that tiredness into a place of, you know what, we're okay. And let's take a bundle of this stuff with us because we don't want it to be like it used to be, even though, we'll still sing together. We'll still preach, all that. We'll still have buildings. It's not going to be a revolution, but I think you want stuff to get embedded right now that will carry into the future. I think it's crucial.
I think that's very. I love that current normal. I will use that and quote.
Yeah,
quote you the first 2 times, and after that it'll be. But no, that's really good. I really like that because there's something troublesome about the word I've been using, new normal. That's like always going to be exactly like this, and I think that is bound to get a bit of resistance. But I think you're right on the tiredness thing. I think that's a bit of an impediment. The other thing is, I think that sometimes that nostalgia or that sentimentality for the building gathering sometimes can be masked by indignation, because I'm just hearing a bit of that coming through now.
Okay.
Of like, this is crazy. I mean, this is overkill. Like all the curves are going down. What about the economy? Let's get back into it. And I'm not saying it's not genuine, but again, I'm a little bit concerned that maybe if God is in this, not in COVID, but if God is in this in a Genesis, 45 or 50, what the enemy meant for evil, God is turning around for good, or Romans 8:28, God is able to turn all things together for good to those who love God and call to his purpose. Yeah. That's true. Then, and it's not a case of we just sit back and go, whatever. But I just think we want to make sure that we're not too impatient to race on out of a frustration or an indignation or a tiredness. And therefore, let's smooth it over. Let's quickly get back to exactly as it was. Oh, thank God that's over. Thank God we don't have to do all that stuff anymore. And I think that's going to be a huge rip-off of what could have been.
Totally agree. And I think that's a real danger. And that's something where, and in trying to think, it was Carl Vaders. I was talking with Carl Vaders, a small church pastor guy, great friend of mine.
You told me about him the other day. Sounds
really sharp guy. So he was the guy who got me thinking about crisis, adapt, reboot. He came up with crisis, adapt, and recover. I switched out recover and put reboot in. But I think it's that sense of that phasing through those various areas. The tragedy that I think for pastors and leaders, the tragedy would be to do exactly what you're saying. I'm glad that's over. Let's just go back to the way we had it. I think that would be just a waste of our sorrows, a waste of our pain and suffering through this. We must take some gold out of this darkness, Michael. I think it's imperative and probably for you and I, guys like yourself and myself, Carl Vaders, coaches and consultants, to actually be provoking, maybe as pastors recover a bit of energy, to actually provoke them and say, come on, re-entry, rebooting. What are you thinking? What are you looking at? Don't just kind of see this as we'll go back to how we used to do it. That would be dreadful waste.
I think I had this thought about an hour ago, to be honest. I was on another, you know how sometimes when you're on a call and God is giving you every bit as much as you're giving.
It's true.
So, and that was one of those calls. I took 2 pages of notes. Wow. You know, like a couple of times I wrote down what I said because I thought that's too good for me, right? And I was amening myself, John, you know. But here's the thought, that every generation, there seems to be a generational shift. So let's say a long-term pastor hands, you know, as a 50-something or 60-year-old, hands it over to a 30-something-year-old. Intrinsic in that, there's a shift generationally that happens, not just in age, but in thinking and so forth.
Absolutely. Totally.
Here's the thought that I had. And it may have been, I had a bit of pizza last night, broke the keto thing, but it might have been that, or it could be God. So the thought was that God is giving us a bit of a scorched earth, that if we grab a hold of some things, we can bring on early the generational shifts, because I'm seeing different opinions down generational lines. Those under 40 are seeing it differently. So in a sense, we can accelerate and then get all the benefit of that. Even up to more than a decade, then a normal generational shift might occur.
That's not pizza, man. That's a revelation. That's a brilliant insight. And You, like me, 7, 8 years ago, went through a transition, handed over to next generation
Yep.
leaders.
Yep.
And that's for you, and same for me. It's worked brilliantly.
Yeah.
And you're right that it's a shift. When we did our transition, I wanted a leader in his mid-30s because I wanted the generational shift. I didn't want someone too close to my age because I wanted a massive shift that would suit the generation coming through.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great insight, Michael. I really like the idea that this is to accelerate change. And I guess we're seeing it happening, aren't we? We're seeing guys doing online church, Facebook lives, Instagram lives. It wouldn't go near it. And now they're forced to. Necessity, the mother of invention. I think it's a great insight. I think you're right. The acceleration factor in this that God is using is brilliant. Great thought. I'm taking that one. I will give you credit for a little while.
Yeah, good. You take it and run with it, man. There's so many pastors to help right now.
Absolutely.
And I think that anything we can do, you're right. It's such a privilege to be able to walk alongside those that are just on the front line. And I pinch myself sometimes. I want to honor your time, and I want to honor your time who are watching this. I mean that when I say this, and it's not the first time I've said it. John Finkelde is the real deal. He was really a bit of a forerunner in our nation, in this whole world of, because it's a bit different in the US. There's a bit more of an acceptance of coaches and mentors.
Totally.
And John, after a really blemish-free, built a great church over he's on the West Coast. If you're watching this in the US, that's over in Perth. So the sun sets over the ocean. On the East Coast, where I am, near Sydney, the sun rises over the ocean. And so a beautiful spot, Perth. But I would love, and whether you're in our program or one of our partners or whatever, John has his website, growahealthychurch.com. There's an opportunity for you to invest into his hub that opens up a whole lot of his resources and his insights. You'll find him absolutely just incredible wisdom, just a great heart for pastors, and I'm really delighted to have you here today. In fact, I'm going to be a guest of his next week. And we've been talking about this for some time and just finally have got around to doing it.
We got off planes.
A huge thank you, John. And it is nice to be in the one country together, at least. Yeah. Though we're 3 hours behind. You're 3 hours behind, aren't you?
Yep. 2 hours at the moment. No daylight saving, so 2 hours at the moment. But Michael, they're very kind words. Thank you so much for your commendation and letting guys know about our website. And I love what you're doing. I love following your travels and your Facebook Lives and your insights. And you have a prophetic edge that I think is just marvelous. The way you can just look at a thing, and just like you did then, of comparing this kind of generational shift that's gone on in churches and transitions to what's actually happening now. Your prophetic insights and the way you pastor pastors, lead pastors, build pastors, and add to the momentum they've got, is fabulous. You inspire me, my friend. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks.
And
Thanks so much, John. And again, appreciate you being here. I look forward to returning the favor next week. And if you are a pastor and you are in the midst of this, we're not saying you're desperate. We're not saying you're white knuckling it right now, but it has been a really challenging time. You might avail yourself of some of the stuff that we put online, some of John's stuff. But honestly, if you want to have a chat, and I can't speak for John, but I will, with either of us for 30 minutes or so, to just try and maybe sort out a bit of a game plan for this next season, please don't hesitate to reach out. And so John's, again, is growahealthychurch.com. We're at Leaderscape. And so been great to provide this unique chat, because we don't often get together in the same country. And this is the first time we've done this together. But again, really appreciate it, John. God bless you and all you're doing. And I'll see you next week online with you.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Okay, God bless.